What was the natural hair movement, and did it really fail? For years now, it hasn't just been common to hear people say they dislike the natural hair community. It's also become increasingly normal to watch former natural hair influencers quietly return to relaxers or abandon the lifestyle altogether. At the same time, the natural hair community has been completely hijacked, slowly erasing what the movement once stood for and who it was originally created for. So, what actually happened? To understand how the natural hair movement was taken over, we first have to look at how it started and how it supposedly failed. And yes, I'm using that word very loosely. The natural hair movement emerged in the early 2000s on platforms like YouTube and Instagram. It was called the natural hair movement because it encouraged people to return to their natural hair. For generations, it was the norm for people with afro hair, basically coily and kinky hair, to chemically relax their hair. Relaxers stripped the hair of what it needed to thrive and permanently altered its structure, transforming kinky coils into bone-straight strands. Once altered, the hair could never return to its original state unless it was cut off entirely. And that's where the movement stepped in. The natural hair movement encouraged women to begin their natural hair journeys, often starting with one of the bravest steps of all, the big chop. Some shaved their heads completely, while others slowly grew out their roots before cutting off the relaxed ends. For many, this was a shock. For the first time in their lives, they were meeting their natural hair face to face, its texture, its shrinkage, its coils. Many had been introduced to relaxers as children and had never truly known their natural hair. The YouTube community that formed around this movement existed to guide Black women through that rediscovery, teaching them how to care for, understand, and style their afro hair. In the beginning, the space was filled with women with kinky, coily hair, sharing real routines, real struggles, and real solutions. But over time, things shifted. While many people went natural to embrace their hair or live healthier lifestyles, others entered the movement with a different goal entirely: length. Natural hair began to be marketed as a shortcut to long hair, and suddenly, growth, not health or self-acceptance, became the prize. People didn't follow influencers to learn how to love their own texture anymore. They followed whoever promised the fastest growth and, let's be honest, whoever had the longest hair. But the obsession didn't stop at length. Soon came the fixation on definition. Instead of learning to embrace shrinkage and natural coils, routines increasingly focused on how to stretch hair, loosen curls, and achieve bigger, more defined patterns. Slowly, the movement began encouraging people to chase hair textures that weren't even natural to them. And when kinky hair didn't magically transform into big, loose curls, frustration followed. Twist outs, finger coils, and other routines used to gain definition stopped being optional styles and instead started being treated like necessities, as if it were impossible to be natural and beautiful without stretched, defined hair. This obsession led to two major shifts in the natural hair community. The first shift was visibility. People began gravitating toward influencers who already naturally had looser, more defined curls. The creators who once dominated the space, those with tight coils and kinky textures, were slowly pushed to the background. Kinky hair stopped being celebrated and once again became framed as difficult, inconvenient, or undesirable. My hair could never became a common phrase, and empowerment quietly turned back into insecurity. The second shift happened in the beauty industry. Products that were originally designed to nourish and support kinky hair shifted their focus toward curl definition. The goal was no longer a healthy afro. Instead, it was definition. Big curls, laid edges, and everything apart from an afro. And with the new obsession with definition, suddenly the curliest hair texture in the world was no longer deemed or seen as curly. Brands reformulated products, changed marketing, and redirected their attention toward looser textures, textures that already had far more representation and options. Fast forward to today, and the term natural hair has been stretched so thin that it barely means anything anymore. On platforms like TikTok, the movement has been diluted and repackaged for anyone with curls, or even waves. Products once made specifically for afro-textured hair are now overwhelmingly tailored to looser curl patterns. But here's the thing. The natural hair movement didn't fail just because it was hijacked. In my opinion, it failed, at least partially, because it never fully centered love and acceptance of afro hair. Even early on, shrinkage was treated like an enemy. You can't teach people to love their hair while constantly telling them it needs to be stretched, defined, or fixed. Because styling became the focus, people were sold endless products, most of which weren't even necessary. Being natural became synonymous with being expensive and time-consuming, largely because influencers pushed product-heavy routines focused on appearance rather than care. However, and this matters, I do want to end on a good note. There were natural hair influencers whose focus remained on understanding afro hair exactly as it is. People who taught others how to listen to their hair, learn its needs, and prioritize health over trends. Many of these creators later went on to develop their own products or share homemade remedies specifically designed to help afro hair thrive. And almost all of them were there from the very beginning, before the movement was diluted. Had more people been encouraged early on to embrace shrinkage, and had afro hair been taught as already styled, already enough, and already beautiful, the myth of afro hair being too hard or too much work would have been dismantled a long time ago. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and for making it this far, and don't forget to like and subscribe.